More than 50 million international migrants lived in the U.S. in 2020, according to a Pew Research report, more than in any other country. Migration is part of the American experience, and for decades, migrants entered the U.S. through Ellis Island in New York Harbor.
They checked your health, they checked, then they had a series of 20 questions, and those changed over the years, right?
Jerry Willis is a spokesman for what is now the Ellis Island National Museum of Immigration. At the turn of the 20th century, Ellis Island was America's busiest immigration inspection and processing station. During its operation from 1892 to 1954, more than 12 million immigrants entered the U.S. through Ellis Island. In 1907, the island's busiest year, 1 million people entered the U.S. through its processing station. Back then, immigrants rarely spent more than a few hours entering the U.S. Willis says they answered a few questions, which changed over time.
During the peak years, anarchists were a big concern, like anarchists coming from Europe to this country. So one of the questions would be, are you an anarchist?
But that was about it, says Sarah Seidman, who works at the Museum of the City of New York.
Up until the 1880s, it was really just, if you got here, then you could apply for citizenship.
Over time, the process grew much more complicated, Seidman says.
In 1924, add quotas for different groups, and then in 1965, really, they take away the quotas, but there's a lot, I think, more paperwork required after that. So that's really probably the beginning of the modern immigration era, where more people from around the world are coming in, but there's a lot more bureaucracy and levels of like how to become a legal immigrant.
At the turn of the century, Willis says only about 2% of arriving migrants failed to get in. On the U.S.-Mexico border, about 14% of migrants trying to enter America are being sent back home, according to July figures from NBC News. While the process is much more cumbersome, America is still the world's top destination for migrants. For Evgeny Maslov in New York, Anna Rice, VOA News.